All right, guys, thank you for joining in this session right on time. My name is Pratik Agrawal. I'm going to be the instructor for today's session. We have an exciting session planned out for today, which is how do we analyze e-commerce data using SQL. Uh, all right, great. So, guys, since we have only 1 hour with us, so I'm going to start right away. And feel free to stop me where you find or you're not able to understand anything, or feel free to stop me. If I see that there is a question that I need to answer later, I will let you know. Otherwise, feel free to ask questions. Okay, great. Give me just 1 second, guys. I just want to bring the chat window right in front of me. See the chat window. Great, guys. So the agenda for today's session will be very simple. The focus is to be able to analyze data using SQL. In the last session, you had a great you created dashboards using Power BI with Ishani, and today we'll actually take a step back, right, and understand that where did that data come from, and what kind of things can we do with SQL there, and how SQL fits into this entire data to decision wisdom process. Okay, but before we do that, I need to explain you what is this process, right? What do we do when we say that, hey, we want to make decisions, right? And what is the meaning of data driven decisions, right? So that's what we will start our discussion with. um, so data to driven decision, right? I mean, yesterday when you analyzed the data using Power BI, you created a dashboard as well. Uh, did you ever wonder where was that data stored? Where was that repository of that data? Where was this data stored originally? Of course, that not have been originally created in Power BI, right? Or any reporting tool. It must have been stored in some kind of data repository tool. So that's where databases come into the picture, guys. Okay, databases allow you to store data in a structured fashion, right? So it's like your wardrobe in your room, your cupboard in your room. What do you do with the wardrobe, right? You store your clothes, you store your accessories, you store them in such a way that if you want to retrieve them, you can easily retrieve them back. So that's the reason why you have a wardrobe in your room, so that when you want to retrieve something, you can easily retrieve it. Similarly, organizations, large organizations, small organizations, they all generate data, right? Everything that they do daily generates data. Imagine, you order something from Zomato or Swiggy. When you are giving your order details, so you actually get order details there, order data, right? So that order data or order transaction gets created. So any organization, they need a data repository to manage their daily data, their business oriented data. And um, if they're storing the data somewhere in the data repository, so then of course they want to utilize that data in order to make decisions out of that data, right? So that is where databases come into the picture. Now I'm just going to take a step back, and I'm just going to have small discussion on what exactly is the meaning of data, right? What is the raw data, or what is the smallest component of any information that you have? um, this file, Pakshal, this file you do not need. You can take a screenshot once I'm done. That's not a problem. And I'm going to share everything, along the workshop that I'm going to be using. I'm going to share everything with you. The only thing that probably you guys may want to do parallelly, if you want to do, which is to install MySQL Workbench, which I'm going to send you the link right away over here. This is the link to install MySQL Workbench. It does take 2 minutes, 3 minutes to install it. You can keep it in installation on parallel. So it's very easy. You just Google download MySQL Workbench. That is the client that we will use today, tool that we will use today connect with the database server. The database server we are going to use is a free cloud database server. So anybody can connect with it. So I'm going to give you all the details about it. If you want to download something right now, you can download. Otherwise, I have a section where we will spend 3-4 minutes to download the this thing as well. But in the site, if you want to do that, you can. So again, coming back to this discussion, that what is data? So the smallest logical component or division of any information, we call it as data. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say you want to store, let's say you're working in a, you're working in Zomato, right? And you want to store information or data about your customers, right? So let's say, in a particular city, Zomato has, let's say, 100,000 customers, 100K customers. And on each 100,000, each one of these customers, they have this data: date of birth, let's say this, gender, let's say they don't have salary, let's say they have they have pin code, and they have let's say these are the things. And of course, they would have first name, they would have last name, they would have city, and they would have a lot of other things, right? So city, state, and landmark, and street name, and all that data would be there, right? But if you notice this data, if you notice here, I have not created a column called as address, but I've divided address into multiple smaller division of address. For example, pin numbers, cities, state, similarly landmark, similarly street name can be there. The reason why we divide them into smallest logical division when we are actually collecting the data is, if you have pin code rather than if you have just the address, right? If you have pin code, you can easily transform that pin code and create, maybe divide the city into multiple regions, right? So that you can understand from which region of the city do you get most number of customers, right? That could be an interesting thing, because what if you're working in the as operation manager in Zomato, and you want to allocate drivers in the right zone where there is more demand, right? So you need to understand how you can divide the city into different zones or different regions, and that's where pin can be very helpful. But if pin is part of address, then you'll have to segregate. That means you have to pull the pin code out from that address, and that becomes a lot more difficult. And that is the reason why what we do is that when we store the data, when we design the tables where we will end up storing the data, we say that the table fields, the attributes of the tables, the column headers of the tables should be divided into smallest logical component of it, right? For example, instead of having one column as name, divide into first name, last name. Many times the banks do that, right? First name they collect separately, and the surname they collect separately, right? And when they are when you collect data, that means when you're designing your tables to collect that data, right? You try and have columns which are non-calculated columns, meaning instead of having age as a column, you would want to have date of birth as a column. The reason why you would want to have date of birth as a column, because date of birth can be transformed into age at any point of time. Date of birth can be transformed into age at any point of time. However, if you have age, it becomes difficult, because what if you created a customer a year ago, but age was fixed. Let's say age at a year ago of a customer was 30, but now a year has passed, so the system will not automatically update the age. But if you have date of birth, at any point of time in the future, you can easily calculate your customer's age. Do you understand this, guys? So that is why we say that when we are designing the tables to capture the data, like the kind of table that you saw yesterday when you use the Zomato data, there the fields that when we create or when we are designing as a database designer, you try and make sure that the field is divided, each attribute is divided into smallest logical grouping of it, right? So that is why address is also divided into so many different groupings, right? And also non-calculatable fields that we end up creating for each table, right? So these points, these fields, these attributes of a table is called as the smallest data point that we want to collect on each customer, right? Now I'm going to ask you guys one very simple question, and you can use the chat window to answer that question, which is that, let's say if I want to create a table for collecting data on on the products that Zomato list. What are the products? Food items, right? So what are the fields or attributes that we will have in the food table or the product table? What do you guys think? Give me some examples of the fields that you will end up having in the food table. Let's say just like this data, these data points or attributes are for customers. What kind of fields would you have for food then? Okay, so people are saying name, price, quantity. Okay, quantity can be part of the orders table. In fact, name, price, veg, non-veg, very good. Cuisine, excellent, although the spelling is wrong. Order ID could be part of the orders table. Veg, non-veg. So everybody is concerned about veg, non-veg. Yeah, that's it. Okay, good. Food. So Shreya, not a good point to have location, right? Because food is location agnostic, right? I mean, location could be part of the customer table. Location could be part of the orders. Suash is saying type of meat. So you just assume that all the food is non-veg. Yeah. Okay. Beverages could be one of the categories. Okay. Spice level. Oh, great, interesting. Spice level, right? I mean, not so much in India, but in many Western countries, they actually mention the spice level for each food. That's a good point. The rating, absolutely, the rating could be there. So you understood, right? When we design a table, right? Remember, right now we're designing a table to collect the data. We have taken a step back from yesterday where you actually started using the data right from the beginning of the session. Here we have taken a step back. We are designing how do we visualize what kind of tables, or how do we design what kind of table and what field should we have in each table where we will collect the data points, right? Categories, right? Nutrition level, type of food, and so forth. Very good. So you guys have understood, right? Those are the things that we call them as attributes or fields. Those are the column headers that you see in any table. If you guys remember yesterday, you saw a table like this, which had all these different columns and more, right? I've removed some of the columns which I do not need. Restaurant, identify, country, city, cuisines, and so on and so forth. So many different fields are there. Those are called as the attributes or the fields or the data points, right? They're intelligently designed. They're not just randomly designed. They're designed again based on forecasting what kind of business question that data will end up answering, right? Why are we storing that data? We want to be able to utilize that data to make certain decisions. So that's how we decide what would be the fields, right? And when we are designing the table fields, we always break it down to smallest logical component, and we try and create those fields which are non-calculatable. Non-calculatable meaning, let's say date of birth, it's just a fact. Age can be calculated on the basis of date of birth. Region can be calculated on the basis of pin code, right? Do you understand what I'm trying to say, guys? So those small points you want to keep in your mind, right? Now, why do we have these? So this is the first phase, right? When it comes to making any decision, right? You want to make sure that the data is collected right, and before you collect the data, you want to make sure that your table is designed correctly, and in the table designing, you want to make sure that you have identified the right fields. So these are the fields that we're talking about, the smallest logical grouping of the data. Now, one of the disadvantages of storing the data into smallest logical grouping, which is non-calculable fields, is you have to then, when you want to analyze the data, you have to first transform the data from its smallest logical grouping to something called as information, right? Which can give you some indicator. For example, date of birth can be transformed into something called as age. Is it making sense? Right? For example, how are we calculating age? It's a very simple transformation, right? You subtract the date of birth from current date of birth divided by 365.25. Why 0.25? Subtract the date of birth from current date, divide that whole number by 365.25, and then round it to, let's say, 0 decimal places. That would give you a highly accurate age. Is it making sense, guys? Right? Why am I dividing by 365.25 and not 365? because every year we add 0.25 for the leap year, right? Every fourth year you end up adding 1 day. So if you want to be more accurate, then you want to divide it by 365, and you will round it up to 0 decimal places to ensure that you have an accurate age, a whole number age, right? So that is how you transform. Similarly, pin code can be transformed into region, right? So this is called as transformation. And once the data is transformed, we call it as information, because it can now tell us something. For example, 40 years, you can then say, yes, 40 years is mid-age, right? Or old or young. So that can be generated. That information value can be generated from this, right? Then from the information, what you do is you summarize the data. And when I say you summarize the data, what does it mean? Summarize the data meaning, remember there were 100,000 customers, right? As an analyst who's wanting to help business make decisions, who's wanting to help businesses make find answers to the business questions, right? You want to be able to summarize this data in such a way that tells us some insights, plain English insights, right? So how can we summarize, let's say, age? Let's say we say out of all the customers that Zomato has in a particular city, right? This they identify that less than 30 years old are, let's say, 15,000 customers, right? 31 to 40, let's say 35,000 customers. 41 to 55, let's say 35,000 customers, and 55 plus 50,000 customers, right? So this is how you summarize. Maybe you don't want to just summarize on the basis of number of customers. Maybe you want to take one step further. You want to convert them into percentage, right? Let's say this is total 100,000. So let's say this becomes 15%, this becomes 35%, this becomes 35%, and this becomes 15%. So very quickly, if you're a good analyst, you will very quickly say that the plain English insight statement, and now this is very important to emphasize on this point, plain English statements, right? Which are called as insights. Using this data, what is that plain English insight statement can you generate? What can you tell me about this data? If you just look at this much of data only, nothing else, this is a summarized, aggregated data. What can you tell just by looking at this table? What do you guys think? For you guys, this is age groups, this is number of customers, and this is percentage of customers. What can you tell just by looking at this table? A very small, simple table that we have. What can you tell? Anybody? Just plain English. Make it sound as if you are giving this insight to your grandfather.
So basically, the middle-aged people from 35 to 55 are ordering more food compared to the ones below 30 or above 55.
Okay, so you can almost say that the age group between 31 to 55, the middle age group people who probably are family people who have dependent kids, right? They order almost twice the number of orders from Zomato than the young independent customers or very old customers. Twice. Why twice am I saying? Because if you combine this, it's 30%, but if you combine this, it's 70%. So almost more than twice. Do you understand this? This is the plain English statement. Anybody can understand it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, guys? Right? There can be further plain English statements that can be generated. And if you add one more thing here, if you now also add one more dimension to this summary table, which is age grouping, right? How many people in which age group are male, how many people are female? If you add that understanding as well, then you can generate even more insights. For example, this is male, this is female, because we have that data. Remember, we have gender data as well. So if you end up including that as well here, then it becomes very interesting, very interesting. Okay, so let's say if I include this data here, and if I say that 80% are or sorry, here let's say 60% and 40%. I'm just making up some data. Okay, it's not really and this is, let's say, 25%, right? And here again it's kind of similar percentages. Now you can make further plain English statements, right? That younger population has more gender diversity than as compared to the older generation or older population in terms of the number of orders that we receive in Zomato restaurants, right? So remember, again, I've been saying this plain English statement that anybody can understand. Remember, you create the reports, or you recommend these decisions for people who are busy, maybe CXOs, maybe chief marketing officer, maybe chief executive officer. They do not have much time, and that's the reason why they want to see plain English statement which can help them make decisions faster. From these plain English statements, which are insights, then they will make decisions, right? And now here, one of the decisions that they want to make is an answer to this business question, which was actually the first business question that they started with. Whom should we target in our new campaign? Let's say they are creating a new advertisement campaign, right? They want to understand, where are we lacking, which population of customers we are not attracting enough, whom should we target? So they can easily say that, you know what, we can so what do you think? I mean, looking at this table, you have generated some plain English statements. What could be the answer to this business question, guys? So then they will say, target youth, target in general females across all age group, especially target females who are in middle age group, where there we are not doing so well, right? So it's very easy to once you have summarized the data like this, once you have generated the plain English statement, it becomes extremely easy to start making decisions. Decisions are nothing but actions that we make. Actions that we take basis the data, basis what the data is telling us. Sorry about that, guys. Is making sense, everybody, right? So this is how the data to decision wisdom flow. Yesterday, when you actually used, in the last session, when you actually used Power BI, which is a data visualization tool, which part of this process were you doing, guys? What do you think? Which part of the process were you doing? Which part of the process were you doing? Any idea? The descriptive part, which comes where? Descriptive is to be able to describe what has happened in the data. The visualization part. But I'm saying, let's say these are the 4 phases or 5 phases that we are talking about. In this, if you want to fit what you did yesterday in the previous session, which one would you say? Rituja is saying knowledge. Absolutely right. You first summarize the data. But I'm sure Ishani must have told you that in order to summarize the data, you first need to have the business questions in mind. What decisions you want to take? What questions are you trying to answer? So this is what you focused on. Do you understand? From this phase to this phase. Today, we will look into this phase as well using SQL, but we will also look into these 2 phases. That how do you take the data out from the actual data repository, and not just from a CSV file. Where is the data actually stored? So the data is actually stored in databases. So this data is actually stored in databases. They're not stored in reporting tools like Power BI or Excel or Tableau or Python for that matter. They're stored in actual data repository, which are called as databases, right? So we'll actually work at the database level. We will extract the data from the database, right? And then we will also transform the data, make changes to the data in order to be able to calculate something, in order to be able to create these knowledge tables or summary tables. Then you can take the data into visualization tool like Power BI or even in Python, and then do whatever analysis, that forecasting and whatever analysis that you want to do, right? So this is where SQL comes into the picture. SQL is the language which databases speak. And SQL is also the language which is supported by all the reporting tools which work at the knowledge or summary levels, including Power BI, including Tableau, including Python, including R, including SAS. They all support SQL. Because the reason why they support SQL is because they want to be able to extract the data from the data repository. And the data repositories, or the databases, in other words, they only understand one language, structured query language. Just like you and I can understand English, databases can understand SQL. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah, so far clear? Right? Now, tell me one question here. Which company owns SQL? What do you guys think? Which company owns SQL? Tanish is saying Oracle. Pakshal is saying Oracle. Rajendra is saying Oracle. Oracle is a company which created, Diptonil, you're right. It's open source now. Oracle is the company which is famous for its database management system. Group of database management system, or DBMS, is a group of programs which can help you to create database, which can help you to add data or manipulate data from the database, and it also helps you to query the data out from the databases. But there are many such DBMS softwares or tools which are there in the market. Oracle happens to be one of the biggest one, but there are databases, open source database like MongoDB, Oracle, PostgreSQL, which is also open source, IBM's DB2, Microsoft Access, Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, which is also now owned by Oracle. Earlier, it was owned by the company Sun Microsystem, which owns Java as well. But many of them are paid, many of them are free. These three, the ones that are highlighted are free, right? Ones that are not highlighted are paid ones, right? But these all databases, they all of them support the same language largely, which is SQL. So SQL is like English, you know. If you go to any English speaking country, even if your accent is a little different, even if your vocabulary is a little different, you can still work. So similarly, all these databases more or less support the same SQL, or they comply with the same protocols of SQL, which is governed by a body called as NSI, American National Standard Institution. This is a not-for-profit body which governs SQL language. Yeah, it's like NSI is like a body, for English, you know, you have Oxford, you have Webster, so they kind of come up with every year, you know, new words, right? So the reason why all these database management system and all the reporting tools, they support SQL because it's a common language. Then they can work with multiple databases at the back end. Similarly, any human being who's working in the data world, they need to just know SQL in order to be able to work with most of these databases. Even if you do not know how exactly these databases work, but if you know SQL pretty well, you can easily work with any of these databases without any trouble. You will not become a database administrator. That means you cannot probably do the IT stuff that is required in managing and maintaining databases, but you can easily do your job as a data scientist or a data analyst. That means extract data, manipulate data, instruct the database to do something, query the data. You can do all that thing that an analyst needs to do in order to make information, or in order to transform the data to information and then summarize the data to knowledge. You can easily do all of that. Is it making sense, guys? So please do not get confused. Nobody really owns SQL. IBM, two scientists, computer scientists, had created SQL in early 1970s, late 1960s, but then they made it open source. Anybody can use it. That is the power of SQL, and it is very English friendly. So it's one of the easiest computer science language for any non-coder to understand. It is very English friendly. It is universal. Universal meaning it is supported by all the database management system, all the reporting tools as well. And these are the two main reasons why SQL is so famous as well. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritties, more nitty-gritties of databases, how databases actually are installed and work and so on and so forth. I'm going to send you a video after the class is over with an instruction on how do you install database server locally on your machine and how do you work with that. But today I'm going to use a database server which is installed on the cloud. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah. Now, the database server. Okay, so just one quick thing about database server. Database server is like a large repository which can store multiple databases as well. And each of these databases can store, what are these guys? What do you think these are that I'm drawing? As I said, each database can store tables. That's right. These are called as tables. You worked with one table yesterday, right? Today we'll work with multiple tables, 2 tables. So for example, you can have customer table. You can have the orders placed by the customers table. You can have the products which will get impacted by the orders, right? So these are all called as tables, and each tables have columns, which we call as attributes, which is what we were talking about as data points. And they also have rows, which are horizontal in nature. Rows, suppose this row, or let's say this row. One row here in the customer table will represent complete data of a customer. So this is called as data set, right? A table can have almost, practically speaking, infinite number of rows as supported by the actual underlying databases, right? So what we will do is that we are going to use a cloud database server to host one of our databases there. In my instruction that I'm going to send to you, there you can install a database server locally in your laptop or in your computer, where you can create multiple databases as well. But the free cloud database server that we will use allows us to create only one database, right? Because it's free. But if you want to pay, you can create as many number of databases there as you want. And within that database, we will work with multiple tables. That's what we will do today. Is it making sense, everybody? So far, everybody is with me? Great. Now, just want to quickly check, has anybody installed or was able to install the database, sorry, MySQL Workbench that I sent to you? This one? Were you guys, anybody was able to install it? Yeah? Okay. If anybody was able to install it, I'm going to make that person a presenter right now, and I'm going to explain how to connect to a cloud database server, which I have already created, and I'm going to give you instructions on how to create your own cloud database server as well later. But before we do that, I'm just going to explain you one more thing. What do you think what are the things that we will require to connect with the database server? What do we need to connect to a database server? What do you guys think? What are the things that are required? What do you think? To connect to a website, what do you require? You require an IP address or a website name. You require an IP or a website name, right? That's what you require. Here, we call in our world, in database world, we call it as host name or host IP, meaning the server is the host, the database server. This big cylinder that I was talking about, which I called as a server, database server, that would be my host, right? Within that host, I would need a database name. Remember, why do we need a database name in this database server, guys? Why do we need a database name? Because remember, this database server can host multiple databases. So which particular database that I want to connect to is what I would call it as a database name. Then next thing that I would need is, what do you think? What else do we need? Remember, it's a secure environment. To connect to any secure environment, what do you need? So Akshay is saying SSL key, which can be there, or we need basically login ID and password. As simple as that. Is it making sense, everybody? These are the 3 things that we need, bare minimum, to be able to connect to a database server. Now, the free database server that I am going to use already has all these things. So I'm going to use a website which allows you to create one database only, and the maximum limit is 5 MB. It's called as free SQL database. There is a login here. You can register and you can create your login, and you can start your own database as well. For now, you will use mine. Okay, you don't have to do it yourself. So here, when you create it, it'll ask for the server location. Just give a server location which is closest to you. I've given Asia Pacific. Now, once you are done with everything, that means just here I've already created it. There'll be a start database button. You start it, and then it'll show you that 0 of 1 available because I've already created one database. This is the 5 MB limit that I was talking about. And very important here, then you will get the database details, the database host name, What is the database host name? As I said here, what do you need? You need an IP address or the host name, like a website name or a host name, right? So this is a host name. This is the database name, as I said, remember, right? So I will just write it here. Host name will be for this database server, and the database name will be for a particular database inside that host. Then you need a username, you need a password. The password will come over your email. Okay, it will come over your email, and that's about it. So you need a username, as we said. So you got the IP address, host name, you got the database name, and then you need the username. Username is given over here. Do you understand this, guys? Username is given over here, right? And the password will come over in your email. That's it. Once you are done with it, then what you want to do is you want to open MySQL Workbench. By go to the Windows, MySQL, type MySQL Workbench. If it is installed, then you will be able to open it. What is MySQL Workbench? MySQL Workbench is the graphical user interface, like a Chrome browser. It's a browser to connect to the database server. It's a client, as we say, to connect to the database server. Through this, we will connect and send instructions or send SQL commands to the database server, right? So once you installed it, it's very easy. MySQL connections, click on plus. Okay. In fact, I'm going to ask one of you, who has installed MySQL Workbench? And I'm going to make you the present. I'm going to ask you to share your screen quickly. And I'm going to make you, who has installed it? Let's see, Ranveer, Garima. So Garima, go ahead and share your screen, please, Garima. Garima, go ahead and share your screen. There is a share screen option here.
Sir, it says host disabled it.
Now you can. Sorry, it was my mistake. Now you can. Can you go ahead and share it now? Yeah, there we go. Great, thank you. So now what you want to do is go to Home tab. Click on the Home icon on the left-hand side. Home icon. Yeah, there we go. That is the one that you will actually get. And what she has done is she has already installed a local instance. That means, as I said, right, you can also install the database server locally on your machine. I'm going to send you the instructions separately, and you can do that. Just click on plus icon there, MySQL connection. This is where we will give those host name and password. And in the connection name, the first thing that you see, you can write anything. Just write cloud database or something. You can write anything, that doesn't matter. Connection method, let that be TCP IP, which is the same connection method with which we connect to the internet. Host name, go to the host name. This is where you want to give the host name that I'm going to send, I'm going to give to in the chat window, the host name that I was showing you, and I'm going to give it to on the chat window here. So please copy that host name that I have given to you. Did you get it?
No, I'm not getting the chat window here.
You're not getting the chat window here?
No.
Okay, so just type in, I will tell you, type in SQL6 in small, SQL6 dot freesqldatabase.com, freesqldatabase.com. Let that port address to be 3306. That's fine. Username, type. For the other people, I've given all the details on the chat window. Username is SQL, small, SQL 6412 2715. Oh, sorry, 6412715. Yeah, and go to password, put it store in vault. So password is, now this is tricky, okay? Small L, small case L, small case M, capital K, K for king. Did you put M, right? M for mother.
M, yes, sir.
capital K for king, small d for dog, capital J for Johnny, number 5, capital W for water, capital I for India, small case X for X-ray, number 7. Press OK. And the database name is same as the username in this case. It's not always the case. So just copy the username, put it into the database name.
Default scheme, sir?
No, yeah, default schema. Yeah, default schema is basically the database name. No, the username that you've given, the username. After hostname, you've given the username, right? Just no. After the host name, you've given the username.
Okay, sorry.
Copy that. Put it in the default schema. Schema is nothing but database, guys. Another synonym. Database connect. People like to have their own terminologies. Click on test connection. Connection warning is fine. Continue anyway. That's fine. And now, yeah, successfully made the MySQL connection. Press OK. Press OK again. Now click on this. So what she has done is she has created a connection file. Now, next time you don't have to give all those details. You just have to click on this connection file to open it. Again, if the warning come about connection warning, let's continue anyway. And now what she has done is she has established a connection. You can see on the left-hand side where it says schema. Schemas are nothing but databases. In this free cloud database, if it's asking for password, that means you did not store it in the vault. Khushbu, just give this password again. If you look at the left-hand side here, there is a cylinder icon under schemas, right? Under schemas. Schemas are nothing but databases, right? And there is only one database, hence there is only one database which is showing up. Under that, there are tables. If you click on the tables here, so if you can see that there are 4 tables over here. There is a table called as Zomato, and there is a table called as country table. These are the 2 tables that we will work with right now. Okay. Is it making sense, guys? Now I'm going to take the screen over. Garima, thank you. Okay, guys, this is the. Okay, so maybe max connections have received. You know, that's fine. You can try it afterwards. Maybe, yeah, maybe. I understand. It might. It might so happen because, you know, there are so many people that might have already connected with. I just want to make sure that I can connect with it. Just give me 1 second to write one query. Yeah, just give me 1 second. Yeah, I can connect. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Alrighty, guys, now let's look into the database, right? As I said, what we have done here is that we have established a connection so easily with a cloud database server. And I'm going to give you instruction on how to create. It's very easy. You can go to this website that I showed you, freesqldatabase.com. You can create one database for free. If you want to explore further, Amazon Web Services, AWS, which is a cloud computing platform, Google Cloud Platform, or Microsoft Azure, all of them give you 1 year free service as well, where you can create the cloud database there as well. But you'll have to give your credit card. In this one, you do not even have to give any credit card, right? So that is why I like it. Now, if you notice here, I've got schemas, right? And I've got only one schema here, which has multiple tables in it, country table. Now, if you look at the country table and look at the information here, it says country code, which is one column, and it's you know, country name, which is another column. And Zomato is the name, is a main Zomato data table that you saw you know, yesterday. I'm just going to show you this data in an Excel CSV file as well, right? Which I have exported from the database to just show to you guys. This is the data that we have. These are the columns that we have. Oh, I'm going to zoom a little bit. The first column is restaurant ID. The second column is restaurant underscore identifier. Third column is country code. We do not have the country name here. Then the fourth column is city. Fifth is cuisines. Has stable underscore bookings. Has online underscore delivery. Is delivery now? Is it delivering now? Switch to auto menu is something that you know, because this is live data, you know, so many times you have columns which do not make sense to you per se. This price underscore range. This is number of votes, you know, like Number of votes meaning the number of ratings. This is the average rating. This is the average cost for 2 in rupees, right? Average cost for 2 in rupees. And this is the final column is your rating, right? Average rating across all the votes that have been given to a particular restaurant. These are all the restaurants which are there in Zomato listing from different countries, right? Is it comprehensive list? I'm not sure, but we got this as a case study from Zomato only as part of their hiring process. Already, now what we will do is that we'll try and extract the data out from this database. Remember, this SQL allows you to extract the data very quickly out from the databases, right? You don't even need a reporting tool per se. Anyway, here, what you notice here on the right-hand side is basically called as something called as these tabs that you see. These are the tabs that you're seeing, right? These are the tabs where we write SQL code. So these are nothing but SQL editor or note editor, right? Just like how you have a notepad file. For example, this is a typical notepad file, right? So this is also a notepad. However, since this is designed specifically for writing SQL queries, hence it has a few things. It allows you to run the codes. It gives you some error warnings. It gives you results as well. It does a few things, but whatever codes that you write, you can save it as a .SQL notepad file, which can be opened in a notepad file as well, right? How do you save? So how do you save? You go to file, and then you go to something called as file save script as. Each tab will be stored as a separate file. You store them, you save them individually. So if I click on save script as, remember this will be saved locally in your machine. So see, this is my local browser. You can save it wherever you want to save it. It's a good practice to keep saving, guys. It does not automatically get saved in the database, the scripts that you write, the commands that you write. Okay, so it's a good practice to keep storing the codes that you write. Keep saving the codes that you write, because these codes do not get stored in the database server. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah. Now, if you want to create a new tab, then how do you create a new tab? You click on this plus SQL, and when you click on this plus SQL, it creates a new tab. You can see there is a new tab that got created. The name of that new tab is SQL file 9. If you want to rename it again, you can go to file save script as, and you can rename that file, right? But I'm just going to close this tab. Since I did not write anything, so it did not even ask me to save it, right? So I've closed it. Now I have already created some skeleton of some of the commands here, guys. Okay, and let's see. We will try and practice on some of these commands, right? Look at my screen for now, guys. I'm going to give you all these codes to you after the session is over. Okay, so but for now, just please focus on my screen. Now, this is where we write SQL commands or SQL scripts, right? Which is very similar to plain English. Now, if you notice, whatever you write under pair of / asterisk and */. Oh, by the way, one very important thing that I forgot to tell you: the database that I'm using, the database server that I'm using. Remember, I showed you a list of databases. Here, I showed you a list of databases. I showed you a list of databases. The one that I'm using is this MySQL, which is free by Oracle. Okay, so that is why we have used MySQL Workbench, which is one of the clients to connect to a MySQL database. So the database server that we have started in that freesqldatabase.com is a MySQL database that we have started over there. Okay, so that is why the commands that I'm writing also are SQL commands, which are generic commands supported by most of the databases, but specifically made for MySQL database server. Now, here in MySQL database server, when you write statements under / asterisk, and when you end them with asterisk / they are considered to be comments, plain English statements which are not executed by a SQL compiler. Compiler is any tool that compiles or executes set of computer language codes. Okay, guys. Now, I know I'm sounding a little technical here, but really, believe me, SQL was designed for business users. It was designed by computer scientists, but it was designed for business users like most of you guys. Okay, it was not designed for computers users per se. That's the reason why it's so English friendly. Anyway, so anything that you write under pair of / asterisk and asterisk / would be considered as comments, and they will not be executed by SQL command. So if you notice, I've given some instructions, so comments here, and then here, let's look at this. How do we extract some data? What is it that we want to do? Okay, I want to delete this one. We will, I've got bunch of commands that a bunch of business questions that I have created, or was given as part of the case study by Zomato. So these are the business questions. Help Zomato in identifying the cities with poor restaurant ratings, and so many such business questions are there. Time permitting, we will try and do all of them. Otherwise, I'm going to give you those business questions and the answers along with them. Okay, that you can execute by yourself. Now let's look at some of the very simple commands, right, that we want to get. If you look at this distinct list of country codes, we want to get the list of country codes, right? If you remember the Zomato table, I'm just going to open it in the CSV file. Here, there is a column here called as country code. If you notice here, guys, there's a column called as country code. We do not have the country name here. Where is the country name? I've got another table here, another table called as country code and the country name. Do you see this, guys? Yeah. Now, based on the country code, right, we can get the country name from the other table. This is where SQL becomes very easily you can do such things. Anyway, but before we do that, let's go back to MySQL Workbench, the browser. Let's do this. This question doesn't say that I need the country names. It just says country code. Which table will I get this information from? Which table will I get this data from? Distinct list of country codes, guys. Which table am I going to get this data from? What do you guys think? Which table will I get this data from? Any idea? Any suggestion? Which table? I've got multiple tables here. So if you notice here in the Zomato table, we've got a column called as country code. So that's going to be the table, right? So the way we write select statement, or the query that helps us, or SQL command that helps us to query the data or extract the data out, is called as select, right? From, where. This is the general construct, and then you can do a lot of things in addition to this. So select from where, select which columns, from which table, what condition should those columns meet. So if I say from which table, from Zomato table. Now remember, SQL is largely not case sensitive in most of the databases, but in some of the databases it is case sensitive. So make it a habit to write it in small case, right? Select from where, from which database, from space, the database name is Zomato. I'm going to write it Zomato, from which table, sorry, from Zomato table, right? Where, do I need a where condition? Am I restricting certain country names? Does it say that I'm only looking for country codes for certain countries? No, so I do not need any condition here. So I'm going to remove where. I'm going to put a semicolon, which means end of SQL statement. I'm putting a comment here. Semicolon means end of SQL statement, and it is mandatory in most of the databases to give semicolon at the end of SQL statement. Now it is giving me a red marker. That means something is wrong over here. Select what? Let's say I want to say select country code. So I write select country code. Do not make a spelling mistake. Select country code. One of the other things about using an graphical user interface tool browser like MySQL Workbench is that it allows you to fetch and just press tab, and you don't have to spell it out also. So select country code, right? And this is the entire query. Select country code from Zomato. I select it, and there is a lightning symbol. I click on it, and it runs. You can see a green tick mark, which meant it ran. But if you notice, it has given so many instances, 2,000 rows plus. My source table had more than 9,500 rows. Here I have limited the rows to 2,000 rows. By default, the system is limiting the rows to 2,000 rows, which is a good practice, because if you run the codes which give you a lot of data, then it may hang your system as well. So here I've limited to 2,000 records, and it is showing me that you can see in the output message, it is showing me 2,000 rows here. But I'm not interested in 2,000 rows, am I? I'm only interested in distinct list of country codes, guys. So that is the reason why I'm just going to write one clause here called as distinct. Distinct. See how simple it is to do this. Distinct code, and then I select it. I can press Control Enter, which is a shortcut to run it, or I can press this button after selecting the code that I want to run. So I select it and I run it, and it gives me 15 rows, which basically means that there are 15 distinct countries where Zomato operates. Look at the business inside of it. How many countries? The question is different. Which are the countries where Zomato operates? These are the countries where Zomato operates, 15 countries, right? Now let's look at some more insights. Now the second question says distinct list of country names served by Zomato restaurant. Here, what is the difference between this query and this query? Distinct list of country names. Here it says distinct list of country codes. So the only difference is the fact that here we are looking for names. Earlier we were satisfied with the code. So how do we get the country names? Where is the country name given? In which table? The country name is given in country table. But remember, the country table may contain a lot of countries, because there are not only 15 countries in the world. There are more than 200 countries which are there in the world. So it may contain more than 200 countries. So that is why, what should we do, guys, here? We want to get, now this is where it becomes interesting. We want to get the data from how many tables together? We want to get the data from how many different tables together? If you look at the country table, I've got a column here called as country, and let me zoom a little bit. I've got a column here called as country code, right? And then I've got a column here called as country. And if I go to the main Zomato table, I've got a column here called as country code. So there is a common column between them, between the Zomato data table and the country table that we had. So that means we can get the country name if we know the country codes. We have gotten the list of country codes from this code. We have to convert this list of country code. That means you have to correspondingly get the country names from the country table. So if you want to get, here we got the data from only one table. If you want to get the data from multiple tables together in SQL makes it very easy. We wrote Zomato, right? To get the data from Zomato, if I write comma, see if I write comma, and then if I write another table called as country table, right? Then, and if I write where, I'm only interested in those country codes where Zomato dot country code is equals to country table dot country code. Dot meaning here that this field has come from country table. This field here has come from Zomato table, and we are equating it because, as I said, we're only interested in those countries which are there in the Zomato data table. So hence what we have done here is that this plain English statement here means that we have joined the two tables, right? This statement here basically means that we have joined the two tables on the basis, joined the two tables on the basis of country code, which is a common column between the two tables. Is making sense, guys? Right? So this is also called as inner join. Let me put it here. It's called as intersection join or inner join, basically, which means that you've gotten the data of the common columns, right, by equating them. Now I write select. What are the fields that I'm interested in? The field that I'm interested in is, let's go back here, country name, right? Country. So I'm interested in country table dot country. You can write country name, comma. Yeah, that's it actually, country table. I mean, if you want, you can write country Zomato, and that's it actually. I mean, that's what the only thing I would write is distinct here. Oh, okay. Country table dot country. You understand why have I written distinct? The same logic here. The reason why we wrote distinct, because we didn't want to see the repeated list of data, right? So I select this and then I press Control Enter or press the lightning symbol. It says you have an error. What is the error? Let's see. Zomato dot country table. Zomato dot country code. Let's look at the spellings. I want to make sure.
country code will be C would be capital in both.
Oh, there's a semicolon also missing. Yeah, now we have the country names. These are the 15 country names. If you want to see the country code as well, you can actually write country table dot country code also.
Sir, even if we
Yeah.
don't write country table in the select after select distinct, and we can only write select distinct country, then also
We
we
can.
can get the same result.
Absolutely, we can. As long as, see, but it's a good practice when you're joining the two tables to mention the table name before a column name. Because if there is a column like country code, which happens to be there in both the tables, right? And if you do not write the table name before it, then the system will give you an error saying that country code in the field is ambiguous because it could be from Zomato table, it could be from country table. So that is why, as a good practice, it is always suggested that you write the table name before the column name, especially in queries where you have joined two or more. Is making sense, guys? Yeah. So this gives you data from two different tables together. Yeah, it's very easy. So basically, the only thing that we had to do over here was from table one we had initially done. Now we have done from table one comma table two. It's the same query can also be written using a SQL command called as inner join. From Zomato inner join country on Zomato dot country code equals to country table dot country code. This can also work. This is here we have used something called as inner join. If you do not want to use that, if you're comfortable, makes sense, everybody. Can you all hear me loud and clear, everybody? Can you all hear me loud and clear? Great. So guys, here we have gotten the data from multiple tables. Here we're working with only 2 or 3 or 4 tables. But in real life, maybe you're working with 400 tables, 500 tables, and all the tables are interrelated through each other. How are the two tables interrelated? How can we say that Zomato table country how are we saying that these two tables are interrelated? Because there is a common column country code here and there is a common column country code here. Hence, the two tables are interrelated. So the two tables, if they have column, then the two tables are interrelated. Do you understand? And if you relate the two tables, the reason why you want to relate the two tables is that you can get synchronized information. For example, customers and orders, right? You want to relate the customer table with the orders table so that you can get synchronized information between customer and orders as well. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah. Now let's look at a few more questions, guys. I know I've taken a few extra minutes. I'm going to still take a few extra minutes, guys. 10 to 15 extra minutes. Apologies for that. Summarize total number of distinct countries. If I want to find out here, it gives me the list of countries, but here the output that I'm looking for is something like this. I want a number. I want, let's say, whatever total number of countries that we have, just one number, that's it, nothing else. So how do we get the distinct list of country names? So I'm going to use the same query that I used here. This query gave me the distinct list of countries, right? I'm just going to remove the country code. I don't care about it. It gave me the distinct list of countries. I will just simply write here count function. Just like Excel has a lot of function, SQL also has a lot of function. Many of the functions sound similar. Count. This is going to give me count, distinct, this. Just give me the as, and as meaning if I don't write as, let's say. So this gives me the total number, which is 15. But look at the column name here. Column name is this entire expression that we wrote. So that is why you can create a alias name, like a short name or any user defined name to this derived column or label. Let's call it as total countries. So you can see now that Zomato serves in 15, or Zomato linked restaurants serve in 15 different countries, right? Out of whatever 200 countries that we may have in the world. Now the next question says is, what is the, give me the distinct combination of country and city. Distinct combination of country and city. Here we got a distinct list of countries and code. Any suggestion? What should I do? Any suggestion? I'm going to send the answer, the code here at the chat window. What should I modify in this query? Which gives me the distinct list of country name, and I want the list of city. So instead of country code, if I go to the Zomato table, there is a column called a city. So I just need to write city. Sorry about that. Where is it typing? That's it. How simple it is. Is it making sense, guys? Give me 1 second. I'm just going to put my laptop on charge. Okay. Is it making sense, guys? Yeah. Alrighty then. Great. Now let's look at a few more questions, guys. How many restaurants are there in each country? And then sort the data by the number of restaurants. So what is the ideal output that I'm looking for, guys? I want, what all columns do I want? It says how many restaurants are there in each country. So the first column will be country. And the second column will be count, or number of restaurants. So for example, India, whatever number of restaurants. US, whatever the number of restaurants. UK, UAE. You understand what I'm trying to say, guys? Right? So this is the output that, see, it's very important to actually visualize the output that you're looking for. It becomes much easier to write the SQL commands. It's a very important best practice. How many restaurants are there in each country? So what do you guys think? Think practically. How would we get the data? Think practically. Remember how many restaurants are there in each country. Country column will come from the country table. So we'll have to join the two tables again. The number of restaurants will come from the Zomato table, right? So here we have to aggregate or summarize the data at what level, or we have to group the data at what level? We have to group the data at what level, guys? Any suggestion? We have to group the data. Look at the output table here. We have to group the data at what level? We have to group the data at country level, right? In plain English also, we will say the same thing, group the data by country, right? And then find the number of restaurants, right? It's the same thing, right? I mean, like if somebody asks you, let's say you are in a college assembly, right? And the principal or the dean of the college says that I want to find out how many students are there from each class, right? What is the first thing that you will do? You will find your batchmates from the class, from your classmates, and you will stand together, right? And similarly, there'll be multiple groups created like that. And the same thing that we are doing, if you want to ask, if the question is how many restaurants are there in each country, right? Then we will group the data by country, and then we'll find how many rows are there in each country in the table, right? And that would give me the number of restaurants. Because here, if you look at the Zomato table, each row here represents one restaurant's data. Do you understand this, guys? So select from, right? From what all? Zomato And I'm just going to copy that thing. Right? It allows me to join the two tables, and then I will select what all I want to select. What is the field that I want to select from this joint table? What is the field that I want to select? Remember the output level. Output is what? I want to select the country. So I'm going to write country table dot country, right? Now I want to find the count. So here, where do I group the data? So this is where you group the data. After where? Group by the same column, country table dot country, right? And then you apply count on the country field. In fact, you apply the count on the Zomato dot country. Is it making sense, guys? Yeah, as CNT, or maybe I'll write total restaurants. And I run this statement. It gives me an error, unknown. Okay. It gives me total number of restaurants by each country that Zomato operates in. You understand what I'm trying to say, guys? Now, is this a question over? Is the question over? Look at the second part of the question. It says sort the data by the number of restaurants. So how do I sort the data by the number of restaurants, guys? How do I sort the data by the number of restaurants? You guys think? Any suggestion? How do I sort the data by number of restaurants? So here there is another clause, very simple clause, order by, just like group by, order by. Which column? Order by. The second column in the select statement, the second column, this is the first column, this is the second column after the select statement. So I'll just simply write order by 2. You can write the entire column name like this, or you can just write the column sequence number after the select statement. Order by 2 in descending DSC order, descending order. I want to see total number of restaurants sorted in descending order. So if we now see here, we have got these countries. Look at this. India has 8,652 restaurants under Zomato. USA has 434, UK, Malaysia, UAE, and so on and so forth. Is it making sense, everybody? Yeah. So nothing very, very scientific here, very technical here. If you look at this, the entire, all these expressions are very English-like statements, right? Did you understand what happened in group by, and did you understand what happened in order by? Order by will just sort the data, right? Sort the data by the second column, in this case, after the select statement, in descending order. Is it making sense, guys? This is what this is doing. Yes, any questions? Great. Now let's look at this question. Find the total number of restaurants in each city and in country. Here it gives me the total number of restaurants in each country, but here we want to see the total number of restaurants in each city and country combination. So the kind of data, again, let's create an ideal output. The ideal output will have how many columns, guys? Bare minimum. How many columns do we need in the ideal output? The question is, find the total number of restaurants in each city and country. So how many columns do we need? We need country. We need city. And then we need count. So 3 columns that we need in the ideal, in this query. Now this query, I'm just going to copy. See, this is how most of the code is right. They have code, they copy and paste and then modify. Literally, that's what most of the people will do. Nobody is going to put a lot of effort writing, typing, and everything. Join the 2 tables. The reason why we're joining the 2 tables is because we want the country names, right? And country names. So this will join the 2 tables. Nice. Group by. country, comma, group by Zomato dot city. Do you understand the reason why we're grouping it by city as well? Because remember, we want country, comma, city. Then order the data by third column. I'll tell you why third column. The first column will be country. The second column will be what, guys? What do you guys quickly tell me? We do not have time. What should the second column? Come on. Tell me you are still awake. What is it going to be the second column here, guys? The first column will be country. The second column will be city. Zomato dot city, comma, right? And I'm ready to run this statement. I select this entire statement and I press Control Enter, or I can press on lightning symbol to run it. It's going to take a little bit of time. Okay, it runs and it gives you country wise, city wise, total number of restaurants. Now you may ask me, but Prateek, here we cannot create any graph. So why is it so popular SQL? Well, no problem. You can export it into any, you can export this output into an Excel file, into CSV file, which can be pulled into Power BI, Tableau, Python, and do whatever analysis you want to do there. So you can actually, so let's say here I call it as country, city, total restaurant. Saved it on the desktop. And I open the CSV file. So it gives me the CSV file. You can see, and you can create any. I press this Alt F1. I'm creating a chart in, you know, in Excel. You can do it wherever you want to do it. Of course, the data is big, so that is why it's coming like this. But you know, you can always expand and do a lot of things there. Is it making sense, everybody? Does it make sense? Now you may say, the next question you may say is, I do not want, what I want to do, I want to do a little bit of further summaries. What I want to do is, I want to find the top 5. I want to find the top 5 countries with highest number of Zomato listed restaurants. So if you remember, now again, we do not want we just want country and the count, 2 columns, but it says I'm only interested in top 5 countries with highest number of Zomato listed restaurants, guys. So how do we do this? Highest number of Zomato listed restaurants. Interesting, very interesting. That means, give me any suggestion, guys. What is the process? This table, we know how to find the total number of restaurants country-wise that we have done in a previous to previous query. So let's do that first. Let's at least do that, what we know. And then we'll come to this question and try to find answer to this question. So I just copy. Again, you know, I mean, how smartly am I working? I wrote that code only once and I'm just copying. Control C, come over here, top 5. Over here, this code here gives me the total number of restaurants country-wise. Now it says, you know what? I'm not interested in all the countries. I'm only interested in top 5 countries. So what I can do is, remember, I have already ordered the data. By what? By total number of restaurants, right? Then I'm just going to write one command, limit and 5. Just like how it limited to 2000 records. Here we are limiting the output, whatever output that we get out of this query. So we are getting 15 rows out of this. Now if I say limit to 5, it will only limit the data output, the number of rows of this query, to 5. That's it, how easy it is. So it gives me only 5. These are the top 5 countries in terms of number of restaurants that Zomato has. Is it making sense, guys? Very small techniques, but what it does is that it helps you. And the best part about these codes is that you do not have to rewrite them. You can keep them saved. So I've written these codes. You can keep them saved here, file save script as, right? And you can save it. And it's there with you. Next time when you want to run, you just run this bit of the code. You do not even have to type anything. You don't even have to do anything else. You do not even have to create a relationship between the tables manually. Those columns were there and we just utilized those columns and got the data out. directly from the database is significantly faster than any other tool because you're working at the data level. You're working at the database level. Is it making sense, guys? Interesting questions. Alrighty, guys. So these were some of the questions that I thought I would do, but I'm going to ask you 2 questions, guys, before you guys call it a night. Let's do these 2 questions. Very simple questions. I know you do not. Many of you may not have MySQL installed, Workbench installed. That's fine. Just write it in a notepad and send the answer on the chat window. List the cities with average ratings of more than 4.5. And I'm going to share the list of columns in the Zomato table. These are the list of columns in the Zomato table. Look at this question. List the cities with average rating. The last column in the table is average rating of more than 5. The rating, which is the last column, is more than 5. I mean, let's just call it as ratings. List the cities with restaurants having average rating of more than 5. Is it making sense, guys? Find the top 2 countries with average rating of more than 4. This is easy. Find the top 2 countries with ratings of more than 4. These are the questions, guys. 2 questions waiting for the answers, guys. And for your convenience, I'm going to give you answers. I mean, I've already given you the answers to the scripts that we wrote. Alrighty. What do you think, guys? Any suggestions? I'm going to wait for 2 more minutes and then I'm going to give you the answer. So any suggestion, guys? Any answers to these questions? List the cities with restaurants having average rating of more than 4. Sorry, more than 4.5. More than 4.5. Question. First question. Select average city. No, Ranveer. It says list the cities, Ranveer. You are close, but not right. Make it distinct, Rituja. Absolutely right, Nisha. This is what Nisha has written. Let me show you guys. Very good, Nisha. This is what, it's very simple query actually. Select distinct from Zomato where rating is greater than 4.5, semicolon. Very simple. And here I'm not even joined the 2 tables because it doesn't say anything about country. I do not need anything from the country table at all. Do you understand? So that is the reason why I'm not even joined the 2 tables. And the reason why I've done distinct, because if I don't do distinct, this will give me all the, many cities will come twice. I mean, multiple times because a city may have many restaurants. So that is the reason why I've done distinct here as well. So this will give me the list of those cities where the rating is more than 4.5. Is it making sense, guys? Clear? Very simple question. Let's look at the second question. The second question said, that find the top 2 countries with average ratings of more than 4.5. Top 2 countries. Now, how do we do this, guys? Do we need to join the 2 tables here, guys? What do you guys think? Pratna, what you have done is more or less right, but we have to join the 2 tables as well because Zomato table does not have country name, right? So let me copy that code that helps me to join the 2 tables, right? So this is the code, or maybe I can write it also. That's not a problem. Select from Zomato dot country code equals to country table dot country code. Sorry about that. Ah, mistake. Zomato dot country table where, right? So, and one more condition, and rating should be greater than 4.5, right? And limit the data by 2, right? And sorry, here, order the data by, the second column in descending order. So here, country, comma, I'm going to use a function called as avg rating, right? And group the data by country table dot country. Alrighty. So these are the two countries where we've got the highest average rating restaurants. New Zealand and happens to be Nigeria. Is it making sense, guys? Yeah? All right, Garima. Thank you. Very nice. So guys, I'm going to give you, I'm going to copy all these codes and I'm going to put it in the chat window right away. Otherwise, I'm going to send it to you later as well. I will have it uploaded, but I'm going to put it in the chat window. You can in fact, I'm going to send these codes right away in the chat window as a file, guys. Okay, so you can actually download this file as well right away. Okay, so let me just put it here. Okay, guys, so I think what are the things that you have learned today? So you learned some of the fundamental mechanism of how data to storytelling things work. Data to decision wisdom process works. You've also understood where databases fit in the picture. You've also understood where SQL fits into the picture. You've also understood where the reporting tools fit into the picture, right? And then you've also understood some of the fundamentals of how do you query and how do you analyze data very quickly using SQL, okay? And that too, not from a single table, from multiple tables as well, okay? Some of the concepts that we have learned is joins, very simple concept, aggregation or grouping, sorting using order by. We also learned something called as selecting distinct columns as well from the table. We have understood the basic construct select statement, select from where. We have understood how to use multiple where conditions as well in that. So we've done actually quite a few things in a very, very small, short time period. And tomorrow is going to be an important session as well, guys. Tomorrow you will actually have Farooq, one of our very good one of our best trainers for machine learning models. So he's going to walk you through machine learning models, guys. Do not miss tomorrow's class. And we also I'm sure you guys know that this this session was also streamed on YouTube's Ivy's YouTube channel. So if you go and subscribe to Ivy's YouTube channel, you can actually right away get the recording of the session as well. So if you go to Ivy Pro School, youtube.com/Ivy Pro School, you will actually see identifying top rated restaurants using Zomato is over here. Okay, so you can actually see the recording as well and follow all the commands there. Yeah, so you can do that as well. And I'm uploading the SQL file, a notepad file. You can open it in notepad as well, which contains all the commands that we have done today, right? Plus, I'm going to upload one more document, right? Which is this document, guys. Yeah, so tomorrow is going to be Python based, guys. Okay, do not miss tomorrow's class. Machine learning, very interesting session, and Python does. Farooq does a great job at it. So that would also make you get certified, in the entire boot camp that we're running. I'm also going to. So where is the recording of yesterday's session? It will be sent. Yesterday there was some issue with YouTube streaming, so it was not recorded, but it will be sent. It will be sent to you guys. Don't worry about it. It will be sent to you guys. Yeah. It will be sent to all the folks who have attended today's session. It will be sent. I'm also uploading a few questions, guys, which I expect you guys to work upon. Yeah, these are the questions. So a few more business questions, guys, which were actually given to us by Zomato. So feel free to work on them. Okay, I'm going to upload the solutions as well, guys. It was pleasure having you guys. Apologies, I took a little extra time, and I'm sure you guys will be joining the session again tomorrow. And do not forget to like the YouTube channel, Ivy's YouTube channel, to get the recording of today's session and also to get the recording of tomorrow's session. And we'll also upload yesterday's recording as well on our YouTube channel, guys. Yeah. So do not forget. And plus, you'll get a lot more videos there. And if you want to get connected with me on LinkedIn, I know a lot of people must be on LinkedIn. So if you just Google my name, Prateek Agarwal, and Ivy, if you write it there, Ivy, the first link you will get will be mine. I am available on 2 social media platforms. One is LinkedIn and second is Twitter. So if you want to get connected with me, these are the 2 best platforms, and I'll be more than happy to connect with you all, guys. Yeah. Happy to see you guys, and I hope you guys had a great time today. I had a great time. Thanks for asking all the relevant questions, and hope to see you again, guys, in the future. Have a good one. Take care, everybody. Bye. Good night.